So I've been going to this beach house that my family and I own since I was a child. It's about an hour away from where I grew up, and every summer we would go there for a week and just hang out, have fun, go swimming, stuff like that. But one year when I was about 14 or 15, I decided to stay an extra night with a couple of my friends. It's actually a duplex. So there are two separate units that are mirror images of each other. My family stayed in one, and then my friend and I stayed in the other. We were just hanging out, having a bonfire, drinking, and then eventually my friend fell asleep on the couch. So I went to my room, turned off all the lights, laid down in bed, and tried to go to sleep. It was the middle of the summer, probably about 95 degrees outside, and I remember getting in bed and it being so hot that I literally could not get comfortable. I was tossing and turning, trying to fall asleep for hours. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but there's this one universal language that all dogs seem to speak, where they whine and then they kind of do this like high-pitched bark, and I heard this sound coming from the end of the hallway, in the direction of my friend S' room. And I don't want to sound like an idiot, but I just kind of assumed that it was my dog who was making the noise. So I got up, walked out into the hallway, and I don't remember what my dog sounded like at the time, but it sounded exactly like that coming from my friend's room. So I walked in and my friend was sitting up in bed, awake, and he was making that noise. I don't know why, but it just kind of freaked me out. And then I just thought, okay, well, let's just go back to my room and fall asleep. So I turned off the lights and went back to my room and tried to lay down. But now it was really hot and I couldn't get comfortable. So I got up again and opened the window to try to catch a breeze. I don't know if you've ever stayed in a beach house before, but usually they're pretty much like a block away from the ocean, and the windows don't have screens, and the walls are paper thin, so you can hear everything outside. What sounds like a car alarm started going off in the distance, and then it slowly got louder and louder, and then I looked out the window, and it was this old beat. A pickup truck that had its parking brake released, and it started rolling down the street towards the beach. I watched it roll past my unit, and it kept going, and then I heard what sounded like screams in the distance, like somebody screaming and then a woman's voice saying, "Stop, stop, stop." The truck came to a quick halt, and then I heard footsteps running away from the truck, and then back towards the truck, and then it started driving away very slowly. I'm laying in bed trying to be as quiet as possible so my friend doesn't wake up, and then I heard a knock at the door. I didn't think anything of it, so I yelled, "Go away," and then whoever it was knocked again and said, "Hey, you got a light?" So I yelled back, "No, sorry." And then I heard, "Thanks, man," and then they walked away. I closed the window and laid back down in bed. A few minutes later, I heard another knock at the door and I yelled, "What the hell do you want?" And then I heard PSD, "Hey, you got a light?" And I yelled, "No, I don't. Leave me alone." And then I heard a loud crash and then footsteps running away. I don't want to sound like an idiot, but at this point, I was kind of hoping that someone was out there trying to break in, because I would rather be robbed than have to deal with whatever was happening outside. I made up my mind that I was not going to be scared. I was gone, nah, be brave. And I was gone, nah, wait until morning to go outside and check it out. In the morning after, of course, not sleeping at all. I got up and I went outside and I looked around and I saw this big, round divot in the sand where the truck had stopped and then tire tracks going away from the truck. But other than that, there was no sign of a break-in or anything, and my friend was acting like nothing had happened. He said that he didn't hear anything during the night, and I was like, "Dude, you were making those weird noises, do you remember?" And he was like, "I don't remember doing that." And I just kind of brushed it off and figured that maybe I had just imagined the whole thing. Yeah, I never ended up figuring out what that noise was, or what was going on out there. It's been years, and I still don't know. I don't want to sound like an idiot, but it's one of those things where it's like, you either believe me or you don't. You know what I mean? The phone lines were dead, the internet was down, and my phone battery was almost dead. I was alone at my family's beach house with only the sound of the wind and the waves to keep me company. My dad had insisted that I stay behind to look after the house while my mom and my two sisters went to a wedding in another state. "Don't worry, honey, you'll be fine," my mom had said, giving me a long hug before she got in the car. "It's just for a few days, right?" But secretly, I knew that she was worried about leaving me alone in the big, creaky old house. The place had been in my family for 5 generations, and it was full of, well, let's just say memories. Some good, some bad, and some really, really creepy. For example, there was the time my grandfather caught a mermaid in one of the nets that he used for crabbing, or the time a tornado literally sucked the roof off the porch. And then there was the time that my sister and some of her friends stayed in the guest house and they swore they saw a ghost. And then there was the time I stayed in the guest house and I swore I saw a ghost. Being alone in this house was always a little unnerving, but I was trying to be brave. So when the power went out, I just got out a candle and a flashlight and made myself some dinner. After I ate, I thought I'd watch a movie on my laptop, but the battery was almost dead. And when I went to plug it in, I noticed that the cord had been chewed through and was completely useless. Just my luck. I stared out the window at the dark ocean and thought about how lucky I was that my dad had brought an extra generator this time. I got up and went out onto the porch to try to find it. It was a huge thing, maybe 3 feet tall and about the width of a door. It looked like an iron monster with rows and rows of sharp metal teeth. It hadn't been there the last time I'd looked. I wondered if my dad had put it there to surprise me, or if someone had stolen it and replaced it with a replica. I didn't want to touch it, but I couldn't help myself. I reached out and felt the cold, hard metal teeth. Then suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me. I spun around and started screaming. There in the darkness stood my dad holding 2 glowing red eyes. "Dad, you scared the crap out of me," I yelled, then burst out laughing. Relief flooded through me. I wasn't alone after all. But then my laughter died in my throat, because my dad wasn't smiling. His face was pale and drawn. "Where are the generators, Dad?" I asked. "What are you doing here? How did you get in?" He didn't answer. Instead, he kept staring at something behind me. His eyes were wide with terror. "Dad?" I asked, my voice trembling. He didn't answer. He just kept backing away from me. And then he started to run. I called after him, but he didn't stop. He didn't stop running until he got to the edge of the porch and he disappeared. I stood there for a moment, my heart pounding in my chest. Then I slowly turned around to look for my dad. And that's when I saw it. The iron monster was gone, and in its place was a single footprint. It was huge, maybe 18 inches long, like something straight out of a nightmare. I don't remember much after that. I think I screamed again. Maybe I fainted. But when I came to, I was sitting on the floor with my back against the wall of the house. The footprint was still there, and so was the memory of my dad's terrified face. I tried calling his cell phone, but it went straight to voicemail. I tried calling 911, but the line was dead. I was completely alone. The storm was getting worse. The wind was howling, and the rain was pouring down in sheets. And then I started to feel it. Something was here with me, watching me, waiting for me to make a move. I could feel its eyes boring into my skull, but I didn't dare move. I didn't dare scream. I just sat there frozen in fear until the sun came up. When it was safe to come out of the house, I went to the porch and found more footprints in the sand. They were all leading away from the house, and they were all going toward the ocean. This is part 3 of Scary Beach House Stories, and if you like this episode, make sure to like and subscribe for more. Also, these are all based off true events that happened to me or people I know personally. The next story is about a girl named Sophia, who went to the beach with her family. When she was 14 years old, she stayed there for about a week and brought along her laptop so she could watch movies. But one night while watching a movie, the power started flickering. Then the screen went black, and a creepy message popped up. It said, "Your electricity will be shut off in 24 hours. If you want to live, leave this house." At first, they thought it was a joke, but then the power actually did go out. They had no choice but to stay up all night listening to the wind and rain. In the morning, their electricity was still shut off. And when they finally got a hold of the owner, he said that he didn't shut off the electricity, and neither did anyone else. All of them were stuck in the beach house with no way out. Then they started hearing footsteps above them. They knew they weren't alone. The girls ended up barricading themselves in the basement with flashlights. But then they heard scratching at the door. They tried to ignore it, but then it started to open. They ran out of the house and down the hill, away from the beach house. They never looked back. This happened about 10 years ago, and they still don't know what was up there. The next story is about a guy named Liam. He was spending the summer at his family's beach house, working on his tan and surfing every day. One day, he met a really cute girl and asked her if she wanted to come over to the beach house to watch a movie. She agreed, and they spent the night watching movies and getting to know each other. But later that night, he heard strange noises in the attic. He told the girl about it, but she just laughed it off. Then the power went out, and they were left in total darkness. They tried to find the candles, but they couldn't find them. Then suddenly, the front door opened. They both screamed and hid under a blanket until they heard footsteps. Whoever it was walked past their room and down the hallway. Then they heard a loud crash and the sound of the person running away. They didn't know what to do, so they decided to hide in the closet. After a while, they heard more footsteps coming closer. They were now outside the closet door. They heard whispering, but they couldn't make out what was being said. Then they heard the voice say the name Liam. They were so scared, and they started to cry. The doorknob then started to turn, and the light turned on. They were both shocked to see that it was just his mom. She apologized for scaring them, and explained that she just needed to check on them since the power had gone out, and she couldn't get a hold of his dad. Liam and the girl both felt embarrassed and came out of the closet. His mom left, and they both decided to go sleep in his room instead of the living room. Later that night, Liam woke up to the sound of the girl screaming. He ran into the living room to see what happened. She was standing by the door with her stuff on the ground. She told him that she didn't know where the voice came from, but it was definitely in the house. Then she ran out the door and down the hill. Liam looked around and noticed that the footprints in the sand didn't match hers. He also noticed that the door had been closed and locked from the inside, but somehow she had gotten out. To this day, he still doesn't know how she escaped or where the voice came from. And the last story is about a guy named Noah, who was taking his girlfriend to his beach house for the first time. He wanted to impress her, so he put on a nice shirt and a pair of jeans. When they arrived, they saw that the windows and doors were boarded up. He told her that it was because of hurricane season. As they walked inside, he could tell that she was getting scared. To make her feel better, he turned on all the lights and started telling her stories about how he used to play in the house when he was younger. Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out. They were now plunged into total darkness. She started to scream, but then a creepy voice said, "Welcome to my house." They both started to run around the room trying to find the door. Then the voice said, "Looking for this," and they heard glass breaking. They found the door and ran out. When they finally made it outside, they looked back to see that the house was on fire. They called 911 and watched as the fire department showed up. The beach house was completely destroyed and all of Noah's childhood memories were burned up. Thank you for watching, and if you want to hear more scary beach house stories, click here.